Welcome to the Dental Decoders podcast. I'm your host, Brittany Rogars, and I'm here to help you crack the code on all things dental operations. Each week, we dive into topics to help you overcome roadblocks, streamline operations, and reduce team burnout. Whether you're an owner, a practice manager, or a team member, this podcast is for you. Join us for insightful discussions, engaging interviews, and practical tips. So sit back and relax as we crack the code on all things dental operations together. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's awesome episode of Dental Decoders. I am so excited to have Katherine here with us today. If you have not had the pleasure of getting to meet her yet, she's such an incredible speaker, a super powerhouse in the field, and just all around a great human being. So I cannot wait to have her here. Welcome to the show, Katherine.
I'm so excited to be with you today. This is going to be super fun.
Thank you. For our listeners who maybe haven't had the pleasure of getting to know you yet, you want to start by telling us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Sure. So Katherine Eitel Belt, and my company is LionSpeak. We are a communications coaching company that we like to say delivers communications coaching in 3 different sectors. One sector is patient-facing communications, telephone skills, treatment presentation, financial conversations. The second lane, which I think is the one we're going to talk about today, is team-facing conversations. So team member to team member, manager to team member, owner to team, a lot of team culture, team retreats, things like that. And then I also have some services in what we would call audience-facing communication. So I have a train the speaker and train the trainer program. But I come from dentistry. I was chairside dental assistant in college, and then I went on to move up to the front office and eventually became an office manager. And my career took me in several different directions, but eventually into coaching. And so for a couple of decades, I was a full practice management consultant. But about 15 years ago, I narrowed my focus to the piece I love the most and that I saw was really crucial. And that is the ability to communicate and to do it in a simple and systematic way without having to read from a script or memorize a script. So we're dedicated to and known as the unscripted communications coach, because I don't really like scripts myself. Mm-hmm. And I find people don't really like them either and don't really use them. They say they will, and I think maybe have good intentions, but don't. And so we teach frameworks, and we really are champions of people being able to show up authentically who they are and comfortable in their own skin, and yet learning a framework that will really get them the results they're after, So that's a little bit short version of me and LionSpeak.
That is so fantastic. I mentioned off cam that I sat through a couple of your talks at ADAM. One of them was about keeping meetings engaging and different tools that we can implement in the staff meeting space. And let me just tell you, I took it all to heart and I used so many of them in my staff meetings. My team actually looks forward to our staff meetings, even though I'm not in practice anymore. I still use those tools, and my team actually looks forward to staff meetings, our once a month meetings. So thank you for all of that. You're so much insight. I was able to learn just in a very small amount of time working or listening to you speak about different ways that we can keep things engaging. I know another thing that you like to talk a lot about is that team communication, how we communicate with our team members. So if we had a young office manager who is listening today, what are some tips that you would give them about communicating with their team members and maybe handling some of those more difficult conversations?
Yeah, I'm so glad we're talking about this because I'm passionate about it on a number of levels. At this office manager, especially newer office manager level, but even for veterans, I'm passionate about it because I think they struggle unnecessarily with what we would deem as conflict or those important conversations. So I'm very passionate that we don't have to struggle, and I want to stop the struggle and the avoidance of it. We avoid things that we think aren't going to go well or are going to be difficult. Of course we would, it's natural, but I contend that it doesn't have to be difficult and it doesn't have to not go well. And so I'm really passionate about it, but I'm also passionate on a more global sense, meaning when we get better at this at work, we actually get better at home. And we get better in our neighborhoods. And here we are just days away from a fairly, I think we'd all agree, a contentious election. And the world is upside down in terms of how it communicates. And there aren't good examples out in the public arena to demonstrate how people can have a difference of opinion or a difference of perspective and still have that conversation with dignity, with non-judgment, and with a successful outcome where we find a way to solve it. And because there aren't very good examples for us out there in the world, I think we have to take a ground up approach and start with our families and start with our teams. And I literally think we could change the state of our country and the state of the world. So I'm very passionate about this subject because the one thing, Brittany, that we all have to do every day, we might only do recall once a week, or we might look at our block schedule twice a day, but the one thing we have to do every minute of every day is communicate. We have to communicate. We have to communicate with patients, with each other on the team. And so, whether that's written or verbal or nonverbal, it's a look or a body language, we're communicating all the time. And communication drives most of our outcomes. So getting better at it is important. So what I would say to a young manager, really any manager, but if I were new, I think it would be easy to be influenced by this belief that I think is erroneous. The belief that we can't simultaneously hold a standard in the practice, what time work starts, the uniform we wear, the protocol we follow, whatever the rule is or whatever the standard, that there's a belief that we can't hold people to that standard and uplift or even salvage the relationship. There's this belief that if I hold a standard, I have to ruin the relationship. And who would want to do that anytime, but for sure who would want to do it right now when there's an employment crisis in our industry and really in our country. And so I believe that there is an employment crisis. There's plenty of evidence to show that the really good talent isn't just sitting around on every corner. And so, gone are the days where you could just throw an ad out and you'd get 4 or 5 or 10 applicants. That just doesn't happen anymore. And so we know that, and we're worried that if we talk to someone about being late to work, if we talk to someone about their attitude at the meeting, if we bring that up, we risk losing the employee. And there's also an undercurrent of a belief that people don't really want to work hard right now, that there's this low level of work ethic and low level of engagement, and people don't really care. They're lazy. I hear these things all the time in my work. So I would love to poke a lot of holes in those two beliefs. What if we could find a simple way, a way that we could trust, that we could not only hold the standard, but in my opinion, a lot of practices need to raise their standards. They're overdue for a raising of the standards. And I believe not only can you do that, but what would life be like if you knew that you could, and simultaneously you could uplift the relationship? You could actually deepen the relationship and cause people to feel good about themselves at the end of this conversation. So that's what I'd like to say to a young manager is there is a way to do this. And it's imperative, if you want to reach your goals, it's imperative that you're seen first as the model for that. We've got to model the way. We've got to lead the way. And that means we have to learn the skills first, the mindset skills and the actual verbal skills, and demonstrate it at meetings, demonstrate it in one-on-one conversations, demonstrate it in front of our team when a patient is upset. When we can demonstrate those skills, people not only learn by watching, but they start to believe that it's possible. They start to believe that this is the way we do it here. And so life gets a lot easier when you master these skills. And I think there's a lot of skills for a young manager to master. One of the most important ones is the ability to coach and have what we call courageous conversations. And just as a side note, the title office manager means a lot of different things in our industry. Don't you think so, Brittany? It sometimes can just mean an HR, like they're the payroll person, or they're the person you go to if you want to know if you can schedule your vacation days. But a true manager, whether it's the overall office manager or department manager, or maybe you're the hygiene team lead or something like that, a clinical lead, if someone is looking to you for direction, you're in a seat of leadership and management. And if that is the position you hold and have been asked to do, or you aspire to that kind of position where you would actually lead people, then these generations, the boomers are out. I'm 65 and we're, if not already retired, my husband is already retired. If we're not already retired, we're looking toward retirement. And so we're out or on our way out. So what we have are millennials, which are, some of them are even retiring or old enough to start retiring. So
That
we've
hurts.
got, yeah, doesn't it? Doesn't it? So we've got the tail end of the millennials. They've got a decade or two more to work, maybe three, and then we have Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z. We've got all these other and newer ones coming on the scene. And what we know about those that are different from the boomer generation and even slightly from millennial is that people think they know, and they give these sweeping definitions to what those generations value and what their work ethics are. And I think we should be really careful about that, because we decide what is true. We make up a story and we decide all millennials are lazy, or all Gen Xers are, they're not personable or relatable because they're stuck in their phones or whatever. We make up these. And so are there lazy people in the world? Absolutely. Are there people with a low work ethic? I'm not debating that. But what I am saying is, if you're a manager, our job, and really our only option, this is who we have. So our only option is to take the workforce we've been given and be the kind of manager that they respect, that they feel supported by, that they want to work for, that they're glad to work for, and that they want to please. They want to please. And we've all worked, hopefully, for someone that we look back on that and say, that boss inspired me. That was a boss that uplifted me and saw something in me I couldn't even see in myself and brought it out. And if you want people to give their best, it won't happen by us sitting there tapping our foot and saying, these people are just lazy. They just don't work like they used to. And I say, well, you can do that, but things aren't going to get better for you. Things are only going to get worse, because we find what we're looking for and we find what we believe is true. We find evidence of it. So if you begin to poke holes in that belief and say, are there any workers in these generations that have a good work ethic or are capable of being excited about achieving some goals and helping to achieve a bigger vision and purpose? And I'm here to tell you there are. They work for me. We see them in teams that we coach all the time. And where it shows up is when a manager is able to shine a spotlight in a way that is attractive to these people. And it is, in my opinion, through coaching skills, not through supervisory skills. Supervision is an old baby boomer, and I can say it because I'm a baby boomer. It's an old industrial age idea that is dead. It doesn't work on these generations. What works with these generations are coaching conversations and coaching, ongoing, regular, routine coaching conversations that are helping them achieve their goals, have identified their goals, and are helping them to become the people they want to be. And I contend, Brittany, leadership comes down to two things. And isn't it nice that it's only two things? And really good communication comes down to the same two things. And that is clarity, creating clarity for people, and simultaneously creating inspiration around it. So in other words, you could be clear. I've seen people who are clear. It's not that I misunderstood what they were requesting of me or what the standard was. They didn't inspire me. It felt like a demand without any consideration for my choices and what I wanted. But I've also seen people that are very inspirational, but I'm never clear. I'm never clear. Like, I'm all pumped up, but I don't know what my next step is. I don't know how that next step will be measured. I don't know whether I'll know if I'm successful or not. So you could be one without the other, but if you can find a way to speak from a leadership position with clarity in a way that inspires people to want to take a step and toward that standard or toward that clarity, that is the perfect fit. And so that's what we teach, Brittany. That's what we teach, is like how to speak more clearly and more inspirationally. That's our job as managers and leaders. It's our job as parents. That's a leadership position. Don't you want your kids to be clear what you're asking of them, not confused? But you also want them to feel inspired to want to make the bed.
Mhm.
Why? What's in it for them? Why would that be a good skill to have? Why would that be something to be proud of? Why would that enhance their life? If we can learn to do that, then we build really good people who become really good independent workers. Yeah.
I think I like that it's just two steps because that's nice and easy.
Yeah,
It's just two
nice and
pieces.
easy.
And I've spent a lot of time in the last couple of years reflecting on one of my earlier management roles in the dental industry. And I think it was because I'm a millennial, so I
Sure.
was the younger one, and I was always trying to prove that millennials aren't lazy. I was trying to prove it to myself. So I
Yeah.
was a very clear communicator, I believe.
Yes.
Maybe ask my team if that's true. But I don't think I had the inspiration piece down because I was too busy trying to prove I've got all this
Mm,
work ethic and we get results and we get results. And I was not focusing on uplifting or inspiring my team. So I like to have that piece of framework and be able to compare it to my past self to figure out what I could have done differently in that role because I was not the leader that I am today by any means.
yeah, me either when we started, and I'm still becoming the leader I want to be at 65. I There's lots of things I want to well, really anywhere in my life I want to show up as a leader in any conversation. That doesn't mean I monopolize. As a matter of fact, many times being the showing up as a leader and from a leadership mindset means being quiet and
Mhm.
listening and learning and being curious. I think when I say inspiration, I'm not a big fan of positive thinking in the sense of just tell yourself you can do it. Or, just tell yourself you're healthy and you're thin and you're fit even when you're not. Like your brain goes, no, we're not. We're not fit. We're not strong. We're not. And so I don't believe we can just positively tell ourselves something that isn't true and suddenly it's true.
Mhm.
I'm not a fan of that at all. But what I am a huge fan of is poking holes in and changing stories that don't serve us, because we're making it all up. We're making it all up. What
Mhm.
we think about life, what we think about our industry, what we think about this election, what we think about the results this election is going to bring down on us, what we think about our people, millennials, boomers, just fill in the blank, men, women, older doctors, younger doctors. We all have these truths and these limiting beliefs that we think are the truth, but they're really just our story
Mhm.
about the neutral events and the neutral things. And so, if there's power in understanding that we do this as humans, all of us, and just spotting when we have a belief and being willing to be playful and to be curious and to say, what if that wasn't the only way that story could go? What if that
Mhm.
wasn't the only definition I could give to that thing or that group or this person or this event? What if I wonder if anyone will find a way to be successful regardless of how this election turned? Even if the economy went south, are there going to be people who will find a way in my profession to be successful? The answer will be yes. I
Mhm.
promise you. I'm 65. I've seen it happen through many recessions, through COVID, through all kinds of things. I've seen people who failed in the same circumstances that others found a way to succeed. So tell me what the difference is. Are they luckier? I don't think so. I think we create a different story. And I had the same thing happen to me as a leader that many the people listening, and probably you, Brittany, had happened during COVID. I woke up one morning in March and everything on my schedule was erased.
Mhm.
Everything, every speech, every workshop, every training, everything, it was gone. And you remember when COVID first happened, we didn't know how long that was. We didn't know if that was going to be 5 years or 5 days. It was really easy. And I did have a day or two of just some deep fear and what my husband calls the duvet dive. Like I went under the covers and cried a bit and was devastated. And then it was like, okay, if you have any chance of having a company on the other side of this, then we have to come out of here and I have to step up and make sure that my team sees a new interim vision for the moment. Because the vision we had that we had put in place in January, 3 months later, 2.5 months later in March, was not going to work. And my job is to make sure they're never unsure what we're doing together. And so I had to bring them, albeit virtually, but I had to bring them back together on my team and say, okay, I'm not saying that this is absolutely going to work, but my job is to take my best guess here, my best stab at what I think will work over the next few months for us and keep us in business, serve our clients, and serve this company and our mission. So that's what we did. And we're still standing stronger than ever today. And so I had a lot of colleagues that didn't make it through COVID. And you all probably did too. And so whatever's coming is going to be, I just think the skill of saying, what do we believe is true, and poke some holes in it. And so we believe certain things about our people, about what they're capable of based on what they've done. But I've seen people transform with good leadership and come out of their shell or come out of their bad behavior because someone finally motivated them and inspired them to do that and was clear about what was acceptable and what was not acceptable.
Love that. So before we ask our signature question today, I want to ask if anybody's listening to this episode and they want to get connected with you and learn more about you or how they can work with you, where can they find you?
They can find me probably easiest on my website, which is LionSpeak, LionSpeak.net. And you'll see all of our services and what we're up to there. We're very excited about our Courageous Conversations video program. It's super affordable. I went into the studio a couple of years ago and recorded a workshop on how to have coaching and courageous conversations that uplift people, but clear up what the standards are and what the expectations are. And so I think for managers and leaders and owners, I think those are really great videos. So I would check those out if you're a new manager. I'd also love to share some free resources with your listeners. And I'll send a QR code to you that you can put in the show notes. But if you go to lionspeak.net/courageous, you can see a download and it will have a sheet. It has several great things. One document is the 4 reasons why people don't do what we want them to do and what to do about it. So that's a great document. And then the other one we call our Courageous Conversations support sheet. So on the left, it has like a mindset piece. Down at the bottom, it has 2 rules of engagement: no talking backwards, no arguing the past, is what that means, and listen first. And then on the right, it's got a 4-step process for actually having the conversation. So I say that's a great resource to print out, talk to your team about it, take it home, talk to your children about it. I think that's a great resource. So I'd encourage people to download those and start to use them. They might be some helpful tools for them. Yeah, that'd be the easiest way. Also, they can call us 800-595-7060 or email us at info@lionspeak.net. And we're happy to answer their questions, or we often have quick 15-minute free chats just to say, bring an issue. We'll give you our best advice for free. And then, of course, we're hoping that you're going to love it so much you're going to want to do some other things with us. So we're happy to do that as well.
Beautiful. I will link everything in the show notes as always. If you are listening and you're driving or you're running around, don't feel like you have to reach for pen and paper. You can just click the show notes after the listen. We'll get that all out to you. So our signature question, we wrap every single episode with one question, which is, in your life or career, what has been your decoding moment or your secret code that's allowed you to be successful?
Yeah. My secret code has been learning how to be curious with myself, with others, with clients. It allows me to suspend the story I think is true and really go in and say, what is real for this person? How can I find out what they really aspire to so that hopefully I can attach what I would like for them to do as a way for them to get more of what they want, not for me to get what I want. So it helped me stop demanding and start inviting people into a future that we could make together. And when you change your demands into invitations, you respect people's choices. Like if I invited you, Brittany, to come and join my company, and I said, this is the invitation. These are the standards we work under. This is the vision we're creating. These are the expectations. I think you could do it, Brittany. And I'm curious if this is interesting to you and if you're wanting to do something like this. It's an invitation. But once Brittany comes in, she knows when she walks over the threshold to the company that she has essentially signed up on her own volition, not because someone demanded.
Mm-hmm.
We left that and we respected that was Brittany's choice, not our choice. We've already made our choice. This is how we're going to run our operation. This is how we run it different than a lot of other coaching organizations do. But we respect that Brittany has a career that she's trying to fulfill and a family she's trying to support. And we're just inviting her into our future, no demands. And we're curious if that works for her. So that whole ability to get there, I think, has been my secret code. And it's gotten us some really great people on our team. And it's helped us help clients to do amazing things, to take teams they thought were never going to make it and suddenly turn into superstars. And that's possible. And once you start to see that's possible, Brittany, I don't think I'll ever retire because I'll never get tired of seeing those transformations. I just love it. I love it. Yeah.
Thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy schedule to join us for this episode and share your wealth of knowledge with our listeners. It's been amazing chatting with you. So just thank you so much for joining us.
You're so welcome. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you so much for joining us for this week's episode of Dental Decoders podcast. We hope you took away a valuable piece of information. As always, don't forget to rate, share, and subscribe to help us build our community of dental decoders. We look forward to seeing you for next week's episode.